Reactions have begun to trail the allocation of 5 billion naira to each state in Nigeria for the purpose of combating poverty and alleviating the hardships experienced by its citizens. Nigeria's National Economic Council has acknowledged the necessity of providing palliatives after discussions surrounding various matters following the removal of petrol subsidy. For most, however, the concern is that the palliatives will effectively fulfill their intended objectives. News Central Ni Omoni provides further details.
Nigeria is allocated a total of 180 billion naira to its 36th state for the purpose of purchasing rice and maize. This initiative aims to alleviate the impact of food shortages and the hardships caused by recent reforms in the country. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has implemented significant reforms such as the removal of a popular but expensive petrol subsidy and the devaluation of the national currency. These measures are intended to stimulate economic growth. However, they have also contributed to a surge in inflation. The cost of living has been further worsened by soaring food prices resulting from widespread insecurity, flooding in agricultural areas, a weaker currency, and increased transportation expenses. Given the approval of these funding, could Nigeria's economy experience a positive turnaround?
There are various ways we channel this fund. Give this money, go in alliance with business owners, and tell them to put increments on their staff wages, and you ask those companies not to pay taxes to the government.
Now, if you release this money into the system, how much can it stimulate the economy, knowing that much of this money will not be used for productive activities? We need money that can regenerate money. So all of this money will be used for the purpose of consumption.
It's unlikely to completely turn around the Nigeria's economy or prevent the free fall of Naira in the long run.
While some individuals have praised the president's actions, others expressed concerns about the recurring issue of mismanagement of public funds meant for the welfare of the people.
And so there's this trust deficit. And it is something that people have seen over time in Nigeria, that the politicians cannot be trusted to deliver on their core mandate of, one, providing for the welfare of the people, and then the security of the people. And that's why the country is in disarray. And again, people in recent history, during the COVID-19, a lot of people have seen or still remember what happened with the palliatives across the states.
Same thing is going to happen now. If the federal government give out those palliative money and trucks of rice whatsoever to the state government, it's not just going to go to where it's supposed to go to.
Experts highlight that President Tinubu is facing pressure from labor unions to provide relief to households and businesses. As people eagerly await the outcome of these measures, President Tinubu has assured the public that the savings from the subsidy removal will be utilized to establish a fund for infrastructure development. Ni Omoni, reporting for News Central Lagos.
To discuss this, we're joined by Francis Chilaka, political analyst and social commentator. Thank you very much for giving us your time.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Just wanted to confirm your audio there. Many emotions were expressed about the delay in the rollout of palliatives. Now we not only have strategies outlined, we have a 5 billion naira disbursement to states. What's your level of confidence that these palliatives will get to the target audience?
I don't think this is the right move by government. I think that this is one of those bad decisions this government has taken, in the sense that you don't ameliorate the suffering of people by dishing out money and dishing out 5,000 trucks of rice and all of that in a country where you have 200 million people. I personally am not a party to that. I don't believe it will get to those that it is meant to get to. At the end of the day, what we'll have is the same thing that happened when we had the COVID-19 palliative, where some politicians had to hide some of them and started using them for their personal use. So I honestly do not understand why this government, or why all of a sudden, the government is telling Nigerians to beggar, to hungry people, to destitute. That's what the government is doing. And I do not see any sense in this. I do not see this getting to the people. Don't forget, that some of these governors have not paid salaries for months, they've not paid pensions, they've not paid anything to those who have been working for government. So how do you expect them to be able to utilize this to the advantage of Nigerians? At the end of the day, what you're going to have is a situation where it's more like settlement for political party holders. That's what you're going to have at the end of the day.
Mr. Chilaka, if I may interject, you say it's a bad decision, but there is an immediacy to the problem. They have to do something. What would you have the government do at this time? Prices are going up. People are complaining.
How many people are you going to reach out with 5 billion naira? How many people are you going to reach out with? Is it 5 trucks or 5 trucks of rice? How many people are you going to reach out to? I think what government should do is, first of all, fix the refineries to bring down the cost of fuel. That is where the problem starts with. When you reduce the cost of fuel, reduce the cost of governance, and a lot of things will fall into place. You know, it's unheard of that in the 21st century, what government is thinking about is dashing money to people and, you know, giving rice to people. It doesn't add up. This is not the Nigeria we all know. This is not the Nigeria some of our soul leaders grew up knowing. So what is really wrong with our leaders? Are they thinking out of the box, or they're thinking within the box? We need to begin to ask questions. We need to begin to hold our leaders accountable. Honestly, I do not support this, and I do not believe that this is the best way to go about it. How many people today will benefit from this palliative that government is giving to the state governors? How many? We need to be sincere with ourselves. You know, we need to be very, very sincere with ourselves and with governance in this country.
Yeah, but there are people. Now, I've asked you, you said refinery. Refinery takes a minute to get organized. We have our moribund refineries. Monies has been plowed in there, yet we don't have results that we require. These things take time, but at the moment, people are hungry. One of the concerns that has been raised is the database, an accurate database for the social register. The governor, Soludo, I believe, talked about how they are cleaning up the social register so that they can target the people in the communities who actually need these palliatives. Shouldn't we be talking about cleaning up the social register and getting to these people and, you know, finding ways to show that these people are actually getting the palliative, other than outrightly discarding the idea that this is not a way to go?
Well, if you're talking about social register, the government is rather acting a script. You're being reactive rather than being proactive. You don't begin to talk about social register at this point in time when you have a lot of Nigerians that are crying. How do you identify the poor of the poorest? How do you identify those who are in need? Every Nigerian today is in need, including you. You are in need. Do you know how many people have stopped using their cars because they cannot put fuel in their cars? You know how many families have stopped eating 3 square meals a day? So, you know, this whole thing boils down to the fact that it is not only the civil servants, it is not only the political class, it is every Nigerian that is suffering, that is going through hell at this point in time. Government should rather think of ways to reduce the cost of governance, reduce the cost of petrol, reduce the cost of medical care, and reduce the cost of transport. These are areas that government should look at, and not telling me you're going to give 5 billion naira to governors who you know at the end of the day will end up embezzling these funds.
I'm trying to look at it from your perspective as well. A lot of Nigerians are complaining, no doubt. When the question about subsidy removal came up, everybody said, go ahead, remove it. We'll suffer in the short term, but in the long term, we will make headway. Since the announcement of the removal of subsidy, the government has, though a little delayed by some people's assessment, they have come up with strategies. They've come out with policies. Earlier in the news, we talked about the Ajuri talking about the CNG initiative to help with the cost of transportation and other initiatives. What other areas? Because some of the things you've mentioned, reducing the cost of petrol and refinery, I don't know if I missed other ones. These things will take time. In the immediate term, what would you recommend aside the refinery and the other thing you mentioned?
Well, let us be sincere with ourselves as Nigerians for once. I would say that this government was not prepared to remove, had no idea of what it means to remove subsidy. And that is where the problem started. You don't remove subsidy without holding consultations, without holding meetings with the people that are involved. You do not do that. What this government should have done in the first place is to say, we want to remove subsidy. We're going to give time to remove the subsidy. But in the interim, we're going to fix our refineries. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. If you listen to the last presidential speech, he talked about the things we want to do. He has not said, this is what we want to do. And then waking up from sleep and saying you're giving 5 billion naira to each governor is ridiculous. It is the height of insensitivity. Because when you look at it, how much was given to the National Assembly? How much? You and I had over the few weeks back when the Senate President, first of all, he mocked Nigerians. And they claimed that he's not mocking, he mocked Nigerians. He said, allow the poor to breathe. And then he went on again and made another blunder. And he said they were transferring money to their accounts for their holiday. You're giving one person 2 million naira to go for holiday, somebody that has not worked for a year, and then you're giving a whole, how many population of Nigerians, 5 billion naira per state. This is ridiculous. This is the height of insensitivity. I think this government needs to go back to the drawing board. When we say that we want things better, government can invest the money they've gotten from the subsidy into the hospitals, into education, into transportation. Make transportation affordable to Nigerians. You can also subsidize petrol by not even giving money to those who you have called the cartel or whatever you call them. But you see, the thing is, let us sit down. The government should sit down and think as if there is no box. Solutions are there. And one of the major solutions is find a way to bring down the cost of governance, find a way to bring down the cost of petrol, and find a way to create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive.
Okay, Mr. Chilaka.
How do business survive that way?
We're time constrained on the program, so I'll just go ahead and ask you, considering Nigeria's current situation, the current reality is that 5 billion naira has been disbursed to the 36 states and the FCT. How best do you propose that the government go about utilizing this fund so that the money doesn't go to private pockets like we saw with during the COVID-19 palliative distribution, where it became souvenirs at celebrations?
Well, to be honest with you, we're going to have the same situation because there's so much insincerity in governance. There's so much insincerity with our governors. Our governors themselves are not sincere with the people. If you're giving 5 billion naira to a governor that has not been able to pay salaries for months, have not been able to pay pensioners their money, and you expect him to use that money for the people, who are the people? Which state governor today, which state in Nigeria has a database of the poor of the poorest? You know, going by the words of the presidency. Who? Which governor? So this whole thing is just a money meant to settle the boys. And it's going to end up in private pockets no matter what you do about it. Because we lack accountability, we lack transparency in governance in this country.
I must say I'm disheartened by your submission because primarily for the people who most need it, and that's why I kept harping on how this money can get to the people. Let's give them the benefit of doubt and see what happens in the coming days. Thank you very much, Mr. Chilaka, for giving us your time and sharing your thoughts with us.
You're welcome. Thank you.